Hi witches, welcome to my channel. In today's video we are having an Ask a Witch session. I did something similar over on Instagram back in 2022, but I answered your questions with just captions on the screen. So today we're actually going to be having a proper old chinwag as I answer your questions which you have submitted to me over on Patreon. Hi everyone, welcome back. Thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. I'm Wren, I'm the Cemetery Witch. And as I said in the intro, today we are having an Ask a Witch session. We're actually going to be having several of these videos. My tier 3 over on Patreon submitted questions to me to answer, and I have quite a few, so we're going to be breaking this down into several videos. Episode 3 will be over on Patreon only, otherwise 1 and 2 will be shown here on YouTube, and my lovely patrons of any tier are going to get early access to that. So if you want to be ahead of the game, come and join me over on Patreon. So they submitted some brilliant questions to me. There is a complete mix of random questions. Some of them are fun, some of them are personal, and some of them are more serious and are based on witchcraft and the craft. So I just want to say a huge thank you to my patrons for supporting me, and a thank you to tier 3 for submitting these questions. Let's get started. So my first question is, how do you write your own spells? So I want to point out here that I only ever write my own spells. I spend a lot of time thinking about not so much the problem, but the solution. I spend a lot of time planning and bringing it all together. And obviously there has to be some time spent thinking about the ethical side of things, thinking about discernment. Do we actually really need to use a spell in this instance? Usually if I'm thinking of using magic, then I have exhausted all other mundane avenues. That's not to say that we can't use magic to help things along. Like for example, if we're looking for a job and we're doing the mundane work, we're writing our CV, we're sending out letters, and we just want to give it a little extra push. But personally, I really like leaving things to play out naturally. And then if I feel it needs some magical work, then I will have spent a lot of time thinking about that and deciding whether this is the right thing to do. Of course, for things like healing spells and simple little blessings and little bits and bobs that I do around the house, I'm not really including those small magical acts. I'm thinking more about actually sitting down and writing a proper spell for something. When I've decided that yes, I am going to do a spell, something needs a spell, then I have a checklist to make sure that I am working across the 4 levels of reality. So I am using the physical plane in my spell work, I'm using the mental plane in my spell work, I'm using the spiritual / emotional level in my spell work, and I'm also working on the astral level. And to be honest, working on the astral level begins when we start to think this through, we start to visualize what we might do, and we start to visualize what the outcome is. And certainly there's obviously visualization that happens, that takes place when I am doing my spell work. So once I have, got it clear in my mind what it is I need to do, then I start to think about what I could actually include in my spell. So I might look through books for inspiration. If I am particularly stuck on what kind of working to do, then I might look through a book of spells, but I will always amend, add, take away, add in bits so that I get to a point where I have got a completely independent, bespoke spell that is right for the situation that I am trying to influence. And it should be poetic or symbolic in some way. Our rites and rituals should feel like that, and the same goes for spells. If you can have them so that they reflect with their symbolism what it is you're trying to achieve, then all the better. So for example, if I talk about a celebratory rite for moving from the darker part of the year into the lighter part of the year, then I might pass a flame from a dark candle, you know, like a black candle, to a lighter colour candle, say a yellow candle, and that represents that move from the darkness into the light. So it really does help if our spells and rituals are poetic in some way. And then once I have done all this work and I have written it down and I've made a plan and I've sort of committed it to memory and I know what I'm doing, I spend a bit of time visualizing actually carrying out that spell and visualizing the outcome. So I do a lot of work on the astral plane or level before I actually even perform that spell, and then within that spell that visualization takes place as well. So once all my planning is done, then it's time to actually do the spell. So I think more time is actually spent thinking it through, planning, preparing, committing to memory what I can, so that it does have a certain element of smoothness when I perform it, and then finally I perform the spell. So actually performing the spell is just a small part of it, really. Next question, question 2. What are your favourite Lush products? So I've got a couple of things to show you here. So I absolutely love anything with the Karma fragrance. They do soaps, they do perfumes, obviously, they do bath oils, they do body scrubs. I really, really adore this fragrance. And what's funny about this is every time I put this perfume on, my husband complains about it. He doesn't really like this one at all. But of all the soaps that he's found in Lush that he really likes, it's the Karma soap. And I said to him, you do realise that is the perfume I wear that you do not like. It's only the one perfume. I've got lots that I like, but it's this fragrance in particular he doesn't like, but he does like the soap. So it just shows you things can be very different depending on the product, even if they've got the same fragrance. The other product I really, really like that I am still working my way through is R&B, which is a hair moisturiser. It doesn't look like they actually do this one anymore. I went on the website to have a look so that I could tell you about it, but it's not on there. So they do have one on there called Revive, which they call a hair moisturiser, that looks to be very, very similar to this one. So the idea with this one is you leave it in. I think you can use it to sort of shape and tame curls, and it's really good for dry hair. And I just smooth a little bit between my fingertips and sort of smooth my hair down. So if I straightened it or I've blow dried it or I've done something with it, it just helps to stop those flyaways and just to sort of make it a little bit sleek. You only use a little bit, you're only using sort of, just a little amount on your fingertips. You're not putting thick amounts of it in your hair. But yeah, I believe that Revive is this replacement because it's the only other hair moisturiser I can find on their website. I will say that as much as I love Lush, they are very, very expensive now. I mean, a tiny block of soap is like £8-9, which is just not doable at the moment, you know, with the cost of living crisis and the price of food and stuff like that. I very, very rarely buy things from Lush. So I've had this forever, not because I'm tight, but because this just takes forever to work its way through. I have actually got like a smaller pot, and I decant some of this into the smaller pot, and then I put the small pot in my handbag. And the perfume, I had that bought as a gift because it's really pricey now. So I don't buy things from Lush very often, but I do love Lush. Question 3, what is your numerology number? So I didn't actually know. I worked out my life path number. I mean, I'm saying I don't know. I would have known at some point. I know I've done this before, but I'd forgotten the information, and I'm actually number 5. So we are the people that are adventurous. We take life as it comes. We live for today. We make friends easily. We are the free birds. We are fun, apparently. We live an active an unpredictable path. We have a slightly wild and hedonistic side to us that comes out every now and then, and we are quite sensual people. And I have to say that this is absolutely bang on, that I would say that this is me to a T. If you want to find out your life path number, then you simply add the digits of your birthday together. So if you're the 12th of March, you'd be adding 1 plus 2 plus 3, then the year of your birth. So if it was 1984, then you'd be adding a 1, then a 9, then an 8, then a 4. If you get down to 2 numbers, then you add those together. And then again, if you get to say 10, then you would add the 1 and the 0 together to give you a 1. So adding mine together came to a total of 32. 3 plus 2 equals 5. So 5 is my life path number. When you found your number, then go online and have a look and find a description. There are lots of websites with information on, and they're all pretty much of a muchness. So you should be able to find a good description of your personality. Question number 4. Any tips for visualization? So visualization is actually a huge topic in itself. There are lots of aspects of this to come up to discuss. One of those is aphantasia, so not actually being able to visualize. Now, I actually do have some acquired aphantasia. I used to be able to visualize things really, really easily. For one reason or another, I think some of that has been cognitive decline as a result of illness. I think some of it has actually been trauma and stress, but I actually really, really struggle with visualization now. And apparently you can work on this, you can make this better, you can, I believe, even reverse this. So we're not going to go into that. We're not going to go into how to do it either. We're going to go into tips for visualization, which is what somebody asked. So I think the main tip here, really, especially if you're struggling, is to visualize regularly. So do this as an exercise. I think visualization, I think using that part of your brain is like a muscle, and if you don't use it, then that muscle is going to become out of condition and it's not going to work very well. So they say think about recent experiences, so something that you've done recently. So I went to a wedding recently, so the way to hone your visualization skills is to spend time thinking about that wedding. Think about all the details on the tables, think about the people you saw, think about their outfits, think about non-visual things as well. So the things that you could smell, the things that you tasted, and they say to do this a lot. You can start off with really simple things as well. So for example, you could spend some time visualizing an apple, you know, something really, really simple, something that hasn't got a lot of detail, and then just build this up. Keep it really simple. Meditation really, really helps as well for visualization. And also I think you need to be tackling stress. I think that when we're very, very stressed and we have a lot on our mind, it is really, really difficult to visualize. So perhaps rather than working on the visualization itself, perhaps there are other areas of life that need to be worked on first to aid the visualization process. And I think small sessions of visualization so that you're not getting frustrated is really, really important. Essentially, you're training the brain to do this. The more you do it, the better you're going to be at it. And of course, visualization is really, really important when we're working magic. It's really important to imagine what we are doing within a spell when we're planning it. You know, is that going to work? Is that possible? Does that fit together? And then visualizing that outcome. So the better we are at visualizing, then, you know, the better we can work on the astral plane for that part of the spell. So yeah, it's really, really important to hone this as a skill. But if you're not very good at it, don't worry, just follow these tips and you can improve your visualization. I would say that if you're trying to visualize something and it's not happening, then just stop. Do not stress yourself out about it. I definitely have got fairly stressed about this. There's a couple of things that I found difficult in recent years that I found really easy when I was younger. One of them is reading, and the other one is visualizing. And I've realized that getting really, really stressed about it and putting pressure on myself has actually made the problem worse. And actually, I can do these things. I've just developed a mental block. I have my own theories on some of this. For example, with reading, I think some of that is related to reading on a screen a lot, and then it's quite hard to read a book. So, but there are, you know, by practice, by not stressing about it, by doing little and often, I really think that we can improve those skills. Question 5, sandwiches, cut into triangles or rectangles. I actually think this is a really insightful question, and I think the answers I think are insightful as well. I believe that this is a bit of a debate. After I sort of thought about my answers to this, I had a little look online to see whether this is something that people discuss, and apparently it's a big debate. For me, it has always been and will always be triangles. My favourite shape. I feel like they're easier to eat when they're cut into triangles. I also feel like they're slightly more polite. I don't know if this is an etiquette thing, but when I think of, you know, going somewhere posh, I think of triangular sandwiches. I know that these days you get finger-shaped ones as well. I feel like you can fit them on a plate better if you're doing other sandwiches and you're offering like a little bite of each, so little triangles are nice. I feel like you get more of the middle of the bread to crust ratio. I don't know if that is an actual thing. And I just think the triangles look pretty, really, to be honest. I just prefer mine. My mum always cut my sandwiches into triangles. That's how we had ours growing up. And so I suppose it's how I prefer. That said, I'm not like, you know, ridiculous over this. I have in the past cut my sandwiches into rectangles and not thought about it, but now I've been asked that question and I've actually thought about what I prefer, and I do have a preference. I think it's going to be triangles again religiously from now on. So thank you for that question. Question 6, if you could have tea with a craft elder, alive or dead, who would you choose? And what questions would you ask them? Now, it took me quite a while to come up with my answer. There were lots of people really that would like to have tea and some triangular sandwiches with and cake with, but I actually decided on Gerald Gardner. As he sort of considered the father of modern witchcraft, and he had a very interesting life. I would like to sit with him, really. I have some questions to ask him. I have some things that I want to challenge him on as well. For example, his homophobia. Lewis Bourne said that he was hugely homophobic. So I'd like to ask him really what his problem is. I'd like to go through that with him. I'd like to see firsthand if he was lacking in charisma, which some people said he was, especially as he was sort of, you know, leading a movement. You would expect him to have more charisma than he apparently had. And I think the only way really of knowing whether someone's got charisma or not is actually to spend time with them. Even though he's written books, and I've read some of those books, I would like to have seen what he was like as he moved, as he spoke, how he would interact with me. I would just ask lots of questions really about his fascinating life. He travelled extensively, and I would like to know, I guess because I'm a bit of a romantic, I would like to know whether he was actually truly devoted to his wife. There were rumours of him having affairs with certain people, but then people also said he was really, really devoted to his wife. So I'd like to know the truth of that, not for gossip or anything like that, but because I think that would mean a lot to me as a wife myself. You know, if he was actually truly, really devoted to her and didn't do her wrong, then that he would go up, I think, in my estimation, you know, my respect for him. He obviously did live in a different time. That's not to excuse some of his poor choices in terms of his views, but I think we do have to put things in context. I do think that we have to, you know, realise and understand he was born, I think he was born in the 1800s actually. And he wasn't living in the world that we're living in today, but I would challenge him on some of his views. I'd like to ask him about his investigation into spiritualism and mediumship. He had quite strong views on that. He, on the whole, didn't really sort of believe in it. However, he did eventually meet a few mediums who he felt had a real gift. So I'd really like to ask him about that. I would like to ask him about him making the Shahada, the Muslim confession of faith. He did that when he was travelling the world and living in various places. And I would just like to encounter him on my own and see him as a human being and decide, you know, whether I liked him or not, really. I'm sure there would be lots of questions that would come up as we spoke. I know that some people consider him to be a perv. They said he was just a horrible old perv, but I find that probably quite hard to believe, because there were people that formed magical groups with him and worked with him within the coven setting and did get naked with him, and I find it hard to believe that if they felt uncomfortable by him in any way that they would feel free to do that. So yeah, I would just like to sort of meet him, not so much to ask him questions, but to, yeah, just to sort of see him with my own eyes and see, you know, what I really thought of him. I guess asking questions would be part of that, but I'd just like to observe him, really, I think. So yeah, I would go with Gerald Gardner. Question 7. What is in your current to be read pile? So first of all, I'm going to answer that by saying everything. And I mean that seriously. I really enjoy rereading books. And I think that even when you've been walking this path for as long as I have, about 29 years, I think it's really good to go back to basics. I don't think it hurts to go back and read those original books as beginner books and things like that got us started on this path. I think that is a really, really good thing to do. And there are many witchcraft books that I read like 20 plus years ago that I have just completely forgotten the contents of and would really, really like to reread now. So my to be read pile, is literally everything. But the next book I want to read is actually The Red Queen. I've been reading The White Queen. So this is historical drama. I want to say that this has got nothing to do with witchcraft, but actually there was a lot of water witchcraft in the first book, because the main character, Elizabeth, and her mother, Jaquetta, were water witches. They were supposedly descended from a water goddess, Melusina. So yeah, there has been some witchcraft, but these are, they're not witchcraft books. They are historical drama based on the War of the Roses, the Yorks and the Lancastrians. And I have just really been enjoying reading for the sake of reading. I got a bit sort of stressed out with reading. Again, I think this is partly due to cognitive function. Reading something and not being able to retain the information, or forgetting immediately when I've read something, that has improved. And I think that has improved by taking the pressure off of myself. I also think that reading witchcraft books, I feel like there's a certain amount of pressure because I work in the witchcraft community. I feel like, you know, I have to read that, I have to take something from that, I have to form my own thoughts, I have to remember everything, blah, and that's just overloaded my brain a little bit. So I have been enjoying reading regular books and teaching myself that actually I can read. I totally convinced myself that I couldn't read, and again, I do think some of that was based in reality. I was struggling, but now I've taken that pressure off of myself. I have actually been able to read and I've been enjoying it, and now I feel like I'm better able to go on and just enjoy whatever I'm reading. So the next witchy book on my list is Ecstatic Witchcraft, Magic Philosophy and Trance in the Shamanic Craft, and this is by Theo Gide Palmer. I probably haven't pronounced that name right. But yeah, this is a book that I picked up in Courtyard Books in Glastonbury. A quick flick through, just looked interesting, and yeah, I'm going to give that a go. I have a feeling that this is going to be like that fairy book I reviewed. What was that called? Was it The Tree of Enlightenment? And it was just, I did not even really know what I was reading. It wasn't what I thought it was. And yeah, I have a feeling that this is going to be a little bit like that. It didn't really talk to me, and in the end I gave up on it, which I don't do very often. I'm hoping that this is going to be better than that one, and it's going to, yeah, resonate with me a bit more. But yeah, that's going to be my next witchy read. I'd love to know what is on your to be read pile. Question 8. When is your birthday? So my birthday is July the 6th, which means I am a Cancerian. So my sun is in Cancer, my rising is Sagittarius, which is where the slightly direct, blunt sort of manner comes from, I suppose, and my moon is in Virgo, which is why I'm very, very organised, and yeah, I enjoy planning things. I think I am a typical Cancerian. I'm quite sensitive, although over the years I have developed a much tougher skin, thankfully. I am very much in love with being at home, and my home is my entire castle, and I really like nurturing and especially feeding other people, and I'm quite quiet, really. If you get to know me, then yeah, I am happily myself, but I can be quite quiet, especially when I'm meeting new people. I'm that socially awkward person a lot of the time. I think I'm quite good at masking that. I think I'm quite good at coming across like I'm confident, and to some degree I am, but I'm quite shy, I'm quite quiet, and yeah, it depends on the situation, really. Question 9. What is your favourite Wheel of the Year festival and why? It's Beltane. It's beautiful Beltane. I love the energy of Beltane. I love the history. I love the symbolism. I love the fact that at that point we are usually much warmer. And in fact, it was 29 degrees in Glastonbury this year when we celebrated Beltane. I love the sort of the emphasis on letting your hair down a little bit, being a little bit wild, having one sort of day to really go for it and have fun. I feel super in tune with who I am and my belief system and who I am in the world at Beltane. I feel in tune with my husband, my partner. I feel connected to nature. I've usually, for a little while now, I haven't felt so cold and so unwell. We've had sunshine, we've had warmth, and really it's just a promise of all the good things to come. The next festival along, Litha, I enjoy it, but then we're on the downturn. So with Beltane and the run up to Beltane, it just feels like there's loads of lovely, lovely things to come. It feels like the world is warming up. It feels like I'm warming up. Yeah, it's just loads of fun. And we meet up with our friends usually, and I just love the celebratory aspect of it. Question 10. Can you talk about your childhood upbringing surrounding the Buddhist community? Yep, so a few people have noticed that I have an Om tattooed on my wrist. There is a reason for that. I grew up in Aldershot in Hampshire. In fact, I was born there. It's the home of the British Army, and within the army they have the Brigade of Gurkhas. So this is chiefly Nepali soldiers. They have some as well from India, and there's a large Nepalese community, and this means that I have grown up with Nepalese people, and there has been some element of what's the word I'm after? Exposure to Nepali culture. So a lot of our restaurants, we have Gurkha restaurants, we have, the people at school and people I worked with, my customers, and things are slightly different in Aldershot. So for example, when you meet somebody you will say namaste, and this is the first interaction that you'll have with someone who's Nepali, and it's beautiful and it's lovely, and I'm really, really proud of where I come from. I mean, it's an absolute shit tip, let's be honest. Aldershot has not been invested in for many, many years. Back in the 90s, it used to be absolutely bustling and thriving, and we had parachute regiments there, and it was a very different place to what it is now. I've not been back in a few years. My parents live out of the area now. My grandmother died. I do have friends I need to visit. I do have family there still. But yeah, I'm proud of Aldershot. We have a large Buddhist temple, and we have what's said to be the first ever Buddhist community centre. And together, you know, with the Nepali community, we have the largest Buddhist community in the UK in Aldershot. So yeah, really, it's, you know, it's just exposure to Buddhism and to Buddhist people that has had an impact on my life. I guess our identity as a town, my pride for my town, I do feel an alignment with Buddhism. It is the 4th largest religion in the world. However, I'm not an out and out Buddhist, you know, but at the same time, I'd say I'm not an out and out witch. Well, I am, but I do have Druidic leanings. So there are lots of influences really. And I think that's what's beautiful about a magical path and about us as humans. We have all these different influences and different experiences as we're growing up. The Buddhist canon is vast as well. So for example, there is Tibetan Buddhism, Chinese Buddhism, Pali Buddhism, and I do really get on with Buddhist concepts, so rebirth, karma, liberation. Reiki has its roots in Buddhism, although you don't have to have any particular religion to be a Reiki practitioner. It does have its roots in Buddhism, and I can get along totally with the Buddhist precepts, which are basically basic training for Buddhists. These are the sort of standards and values that you should live your life by, and Buddhists do, and I think they're actually very valid. They are good ways to conduct oneself, and they're based on the principle of non-harming. So there we go. I didn't grow up with Buddhist parents or anything, but I have grown up with that exposure to Nepali culture and Buddhist culture. So yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Aldershot is a very interesting place. I think I'll have to go back and visit soon. Hopefully the area is looking a bit better than when I left it. Like a lot of town centres in the UK, you know, there's no money, it's really hard to run a business, it's really expensive, and so the area has just, really declined, sadly. Question 11, fave beginner-friendly books, resources on witchcraft, paganism and folklore. Now, I started to come up with a selection of books to show you, but I have shown those a lot on this channel. I'm sure you're all pretty sick of me talking about Glennie Kindred, although she is fantastic. That's why I have mentioned her again and again and again. So I thought I would show you something a little bit different actually. I really love, as a resource for beginners, Pagan Dawn magazine. This is the Pagan Federation journal. You can buy it at certain outlets. It's £5.25, or if you are a member of the Pagan Federation, you will be sent this 4 times a year. So membership to the Pagan Federation is £26 for the year for a single person. And you get 4 of these at £5.25 a go. So that doesn't even really cover the postage and the price of the magazine if you were to buy it somewhere else and then send it to someone. So fantastic offer. Obviously there are benefits to being a member of the Pagan Federation. And I really love this as a resource because you hear other pagan voices. You get to read articles written by pagans, not just authors, but by pagan people. You stay in the loop of what's going on in the pagan world. and also the Wheel of the Year. There are all sorts of things in here like news and reviews and spells and recipes and remedies, and I think it is just a really, really lovely magazine. So as a beginner, if nothing else, get yourself signed up to the Pagan Federation or find an outlet for Pagan Dawn magazine and just invest in this 4 times a year. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I have been receiving this on and off for many years, since I was 18, I think. So I have got a lot of these. There have been big gaps as well where I've not renewed my membership and time has rolled on, but I do have quite a few copies of Pagan Dawn magazine. Question 12. If you only had 3 minutes for magic, what would you do? Right, so first I'd put on some witchy or inspirational music that made me feel sort of like I was standing in my authentic witchy power. I would light some incense mindfully, and I would take a moment to breathe, and I would be listening to the music and smelling the incense and just grounding myself and centering myself and just thinking about who I was as a magical person. I would be feeling that magic, and then I would do a simple candle spell. So this is particularly good if you want to send out healing to someone, but I would write my intention on a piece of paper. I would think about that intention, I would visualize the outcome. So yeah, it's not just the intention we want to think of, it's the outcome we want to think of. What are we trying to achieve? And then I would burn my petition paper. So very, very simple candle spell. I think 3 minutes is about right for something small like this, because you want to get into the mood, you want to center yourself, you want to think about what you're doing, and then you want to have time for the action as well. So that would probably be my 3-minute magic. Question 13, do you have witchy decor in your home? Do we ever? My house, you can tell that a witch lives here. My entire house is witchy. There isn't a room that isn't witchy, I guess just because it is just the nature of who I am, who my husband is as well. I have been following this path since before I was 18, and then seriously from the age of 18. So everything that I've collected is witchy. All of our pictures are witchy, all of our ornaments, not that we have many ornaments, but all of the items and objects in our home are witchy in some way. There's absolutely no doubt that a witch lives there. No doubt at all. Question 14. If you had the ability to see how honest, how kind, how loyal, or how generous someone was, what would you pick and why? So I would go for how honest someone was, because that would tell you everything you needed to know about their interactions with the world. If they are not an honest person, then really that indicates a type of personality that you probably wouldn't want to interact with, an unsafe personality. So yeah, I would go for how honest someone was. That would tell me everything I needed to know. Oh, and we're back to the beginning. So brilliant. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you to my tier 3 patrons. Thank you for submitting your questions. We have another 2 videos worth at least some absolutely amazing questions still to come. So yeah, if you want to get involved with projects like this, come and join me over on Patreon. We have a lot of fun, and if you got to the end of this video and you haven't subscribed, please do. I really appreciate it, and just thank you so much for watching. All right, love and blessings. Bye.